This call is from a person currently in a prison in England. All calls are logged and recorded and may be listened to by a member of prison staff. If you do not wish to accept this call, please hang up now.
On the 5th of August 2024, 5 Palestine actionists were arrested inside the factory of an Elbit Systems weapons site in Filton, Bristol. Video shared online of the actions showing destroyed quadcopter drone, the same model that a British doctor a few months prior gave a teary-eyed testimony, revealing how Israel were playing the sound of crying babies from the drones to lure Palestinians out from their rubble homes and drop a grenade on them. The 5 brave Palestine actionists were further arrested in a police station, charged with terrorist offences. Others were arrested days or weeks later for allegedly having a role in the action that massively destroyed and impeded Elbit's newest £32 million site for weeks, while also costing the operations millions. I watched on social media over the weeks how the Filton 5 became the Filton 10, under the outrageous charge of terrorism. While mothers of the Filton 10 shared stories of their own arrests and intimidation by PIC forces, I saw more and more people coming together to protest and share the injustice of the charges of the Filton 10 and the abuse of the counter-terrorism pigs. I scrolled Pal Action's social media in shame that in this country, being accused of preventing genocide can have you labelled a terrorist. For over 3 months, support grew. And then, on the 19th of November 2024, I was arrested in a pre-dawn raid under the Section 5 of the Terrorism Act, which concerns the commission, preparation, or instigation of acts of terror. While they said something about Elbit Systems, Bristol, Palestine Action, I can't remember on the arrest as well, but I also remember that even my mum and little brother was placed in handcuffs, and my little brother wasn't even allowed clothes on for a long time. I'd like to thank Cage International for their help in my family lodge complaints. I arrived in Manchester, the Northwest Counter-Terrorism headquarters, on the icy cold morning, wearing sliders without socks, prisoner pants that I used as pyjamas from a previous arrest, and a Palestine Action hoodie that was promptly taken off me before 4 days of interrogation. It was pretty unexpected, I won't lie, but what I found out throughout this experience was that 8 of us were arrested simultaneously across the country. I couldn't believe it yet, but as it turned out, the Filton 10, whose updates had followed for months, had become the Filton 18, and I was one of them. I've been in prison 5 months now, supported throughout, as are the others, I'm sure, as the political prisoners we are. I've received mail from FRFI South London, which I'm grateful for. It's practically unachievable to have a trial with 18 defendants. I don't think that there's a dock in the country that big, so our trials are going to be split up, but the charges and so-called evidence remain the same. Aggravated burglary, conspiracy to cause criminal damage, and violent disorder. Personally, I don't even have a trial date yet, so I'm just going to be in prison for donkeys by the looks of it. Bail as a terrorist isn't plausible. Ordinarily, I'd agree with that, but we're not terrorists. Despite all this time in the cell, I'm still unable to see the terrorists supposed to be in the room with me. I've been forced to ponder how 18 of us could go to trial and get charged with the aggravating factor of terrorism. I recall the counter-terrorism pig saying that terrorism can be doing something to change British foreign policy, which is very curious because British foreign policy is international law. As a founding member of the United Nations, they should be expressly interested in preventing the commission and instigation of genocide within their own borders as per its own laws. What makes the explanation of this terrorist witch hunt less likely for me to believe is that Albert, in every case and possible opportunity, denies exporting weapons to the racist Zionist state. So how can this be an issue of foreign policy? But in reality, we know that Albert has over 82 export licenses to Israel from 2022. Albert produces hardware like Macarthur tanks, unique to IOF forces in Britain. And what's most damning for them in their false claims is that a senior Albert staff member is literally on YouTube telling the workers at the very Filton site that got hit on the 5th of August that this site is crucial in achieving Israel's military objectives. And that's on YouTube, or at least it was before I got arrested. It might still be there, might not. So, if it is there, download and share it about everywhere. I try to make sense of the cowardice and hypocrisy of Britain and its subsidiary state, Israel. Has Britain publicly abandoned its responsibility to enforce international law, prevention of genocide at every Albert UK site? And if so, why does the government have an arrest warrant out for Benjamin Netanyahu, the criminal against humanity? Surely it's not just for show. Surely they, with their superior private institutional education, know that the arrest warrant should be on the makers and the distributors of arms, rather than just the fingers of Benjamin Netanyahu that point on a tabletop map. The real terrorists are all with ties to Albert systems, and Britain is harbouring them. Some of their senior staff are literally immune to prosecution, as if this calling for their arrest was predictable. Well, of course it was. We have to expose Britain's complicity, and that's what Palestine Action done. Which leads me to believe that what is the most likely reason why the state has brought the T charge on us is that Palestine Action has permanently shut down 4 Elbit sites in as many years. The board of one of its subsidiaries even voted unanimously to break with its parent company, Elbit Systems, and now they're making parts for public transport since 2023. Palestine Action's direct action has also cost Elbit Systems UK at least tens of millions of pounds in damage, in physical capital and loss of earnings, still forced to pay their quasi-civilian military workers while increasing security costs. Furthermore, Elbit UK have lost over £300 million in British Ministry of Defence contracts. In Parliament, the reason was stated as frequent security breaches. The cost of working with Elbit is too high, which is why many of its partners, from website hosts, recruitment firms and landlords, have abandoned them as a result of direct action. What's most likely is that Elbit Systems UK have cried to Mummy Home Office for so long that their business of breaking international law is unfairly impeded, that the British state has used the Bristol action as an excuse to violate 18 others, actionists and people they accuse of having an organisation role in what they call PAG, Palestine Action Group. But Palestine Action is not a group. Palestine Action is literally people taking action. It's hundreds of the finest, bravest individuals in the Western world who saw how, then shown others to achieve all of the previously mentioned historically unprecedented victories. That's what terrifies them, that people act on the highest morals Western bourgeois dictatorships teach to its people, but without the institutional racism and supremacist values that comes with them. They're terrified of real civilization. After all, according to the definition of terrorism, you can stand for world peace, which is inherently against British foreign policy, and they could label you a terrorist. That's literally the truth. As a revolutionary communist, I would rather be in prison, accused of disrupting an ongoing genocide, than accused of not doing enough at the time, particularly when the means of destruction are on my doorstep. I call on you and your trusted friends to build a formidable prison movement for all political prisoners. Demonstrate, educate, communicate with us and the people. Take a stand with us until the jury stands, finding us not guilty, knowing that Elbit is guilty.
Okay, so what you just heard was an article for the FRFI newspaper that stands for Fight Racism, Fight Imperialism. They asked me to write something, so that's what I did. I also thought that it'd be really helpful to give context to for this podcast as to why the heck I was even in prison, because I hadn't covered that yet. Every other episode was just diary form, and that's what they're going to be for the most part. Fun fact, it's the selling of an FRFI newspaper stand which actually drew me in and then got me involved in revolutionary politics. So I think it's, I don't know what's the word, ironic or full circle that an FRFI article, my first one, is at the very start of my Political Prisoner podcast. Well, moving on something more important, as you heard me reference in that, I was interrogated in counter-terrorism police headquarters for 4 days. So obviously I want everybody to bear in mind when it comes to these podcasts, each episode, that I am limited to what I can say, because I have already seen how desperate and fiendish these counter-terrorism pigs are, and how they'll try and twist anything, any information out there in their favour. And that's exactly what they do. So that's why the diary it hasn't got a lot of analysis in everything, political analysis, social or otherwise, but it is just trying to just like document day by day what it's like in prison and how I responded to that. There are periods where I do give some sort of political, social analysis, cultural analysis. Obviously, they're my favourite things to do, but I do try and hold back for those reasons. So please bear that in mind in this induction, as to that's why in the main podcast you're not just going to hear deep analysis every single episode. It's not about that. It is just literally about, I'm in prison. This is what I've had to go through today. And most of the time it's very annoying, it's very frustrating. I do try to have a sense of humour about things. I do feel guilty for how I observe things or feel about some things. But at the same time, it's deplorable conditions, and I wouldn't welcome anybody to, but I'm sure that if people were in these circumstances, you would definitely feel something similar to what I felt. For example, you're around a lot of people who use drugs. They're quite fiendish, you could say. They're asking you for drugs that you would never even fathom to use, and it's quite insulting and it's quite annoying how repetitive it is. This is just one example of what I'm saying is, you know, it's a totally bizarre place. So I do try to cover everything that I do see and experience in prison at the time, but there are still things that I can't, and that's not even just because of the counter-terrorism police malarkey where they'll try and use any evidence against me. That's just literally because I'm not a snitch. So I'm sure that if, inshallah, I get out in the next 40 years, then I can talk about those things. But for the time being, it's relatively age 15 plus. I think it's probably too explicit for PG. So there's that. I also want to ask everybody to bear in mind that, like, I'm not claiming to experience everything that the Filton 18 are experiencing. I'm simply one element of that. These are my experiences and my experiences alone. I would also just ask you to bear in mind that while our experiences may differ and how we respond to these situations and you know, experiences are going to be different, they also could be similar in many circumstances. Many of the frustrations or, you know, ongoing things that cause stress could be shared between 4 of us. They could be shared by 1 of us. They could be shared by 10 of us. So please bear in mind when you listen to this that this is just one experience out of the Filton 18. Everybody is going through their own journey, you could say. And I really do hope that they're all doing well. I hope that they're doing better than me. You know, it's rough what they're doing to all of us. So just please bear that in mind as well. Like, don't ever let this podcast take away from the fact that there's 17 others in prison in various places around the country for the exact same thing. And they're going through something, you know, completely different, I'm sure. So, that being said, I think that that's probably the induction. I think that that's everything I wanted to just say on the offset on the podcast. Probably more than I should have. However, I did mean it when I said that the counter-terrorism police are fiendish. And duplicitous, you know what I mean. So let me just take this opportunity to just thank everybody who supported this podcast. It's literally blown my mind how many people have supported this, shared it, and even paying Patreon supporters. If you do pay on Patreon, you can subscribe at different tiers, and these tiers can give you different perks, but to be honest, the best perk is the one that all of them provide, and that is supporting my mum and my son while I'm in prison and I can't. This is one of the most stressful things for me, if not the most stressful thing for me in prison, was the uselessness that I felt in being able to provide for my mum or my brother for potentially a decade or more in prison because of this obscene conspiracy on their part. So, you know, I'm so grateful for everybody who has supported on Patreon. The money literally just goes towards my mum, my son. My son gets his Christmas presents and birthday presents, and you know, just normal stuff that you know that a kid would expect and what they should have, frankly, to be normal themselves and not poverty stricken, basically, and like in no other you know, just to be honest. So it's really incredible. I can't put into words what that means for me. So please continue to support this podcast. It's definitely going to be a long one. And some of the So, for example, the £5 tier, you do just get a whole week's episodes every Monday, rather than having to wait every single day for the daily diary entries. You can also pay a little bit more, £10 a month, and you can actually get the opportunity to ask me a question once a month. We do Q&A episodes. So if you get your questions in by the latest, the 25th of every month, me and Tom are going to sit down. They're going to ask me your questions, and then I'm going to answer them. And I'll try to be as explicit and honest and the best that I can answer them for you. So far, this is the first month. We've got 3 questions. What date is this? The 23rd so far. So I'm really looking forward to doing that Q&A episode for those who are supporting the £10 tier, and the future supporters at that tier who will also have access to that episode to hear the answers for those really good questions. So you can also support even more, and again, that's just providing even more support for my mum and my son, which I cannot do. Other than that, please stay with me. It's good to know that I'm not going through this alone, and people are actually experiencing from my diary, some of the, what can I say, some of the life that I'm living here. So, if this is your first time listening, can I say that I'm not holding back. I'm not holding back on anything, but on some things. When it comes to analysis, when it comes to political perspective, I have to. But as for my raw experience of prison, that is my diary of a political prisoner.
Thank you for tuning in to Diary of a Political Prisoner. What was a short list for you was a period of time in prison for me. So please make sure that you subscribe on whatever podcast player you're listening on to be notified of future episodes. Each episode was recorded in a prison cell as I'm held on remand for allegedly being involved in a Palestine action to disrupt and destroy weapons in a genocidal Israeli arms factory under Section 5 of the Terrorism Act. My diary is a podcast only to give you something in the hope that you can give help and support to my mum and son, which I can't do by any other means from prison. In supporting them, for £5 a month, you can get a week's worth of episodes in advance every Monday. For £10 a month, you'll get the week's worth of episodes, plus I'll respond to any question you have in a monthly question and answer episode on my Patreon at patreon.com/politicalprisonerpod. For £25 a month, our humanitarian aid tier, you get all of the above while knowing my little boy is supported and happy. One-time donations can be made by emailing or messaging my producer on social media. Media/collaboration inquiries are on the same line as senders and inbox. If you can't support me family in my absence, please follow the podcast on Instagram if you're going to be listening. Please follow on Twitter, all of our socials. Our handle is Diary Pol Prisoner. Please share them and this podcast with your friends. It's free to do and it helps this project grow. You can also send me a prisoner email or letters, drawings, anything like that. Links to everything mentioned can be found in the podcast description below. Thank you, love and solidarity.